$515,000. Is this guy joking? I mean, that's crazy. That's really good money. Let's find out more. She cuts her own hair? So do I. Okay, now we're getting the truth here. Side hustles. One makes $15,000, the other makes $20,000. That's pretty good, right? So I'm really interested to see what Make It found out. So let's roll this thing and see what the story is. $50K a year, come on. It's not even possible.
New York City is pretty expensive, but I think if you know where your money's going and you recognize what your priorities are, it's totally doable.
That's before tax. So she's not really making $50,000 a year. She's probably making about $40,000 a year, real cash dollars. So she's living off a lot less than 50.
I feel like I've had a lot of different influences about money, negotiating, 401k, investments.
Not bad. She's got savings in here. I'm looking at a pie chart. Elena's typical monthly spend, $28.94. Food, $340, transportation, $145. Debt repayment, $130. See how much that is? That's a chunk. And then miscellaneous, $420. Ooh. Okay. All right. But the savings, $880. I like that. I like that. I want to see if she's investing it in the long term, because that's what you're going to need to end up with over $1 million by the time you're 65, because you got to get market returns. They're sort of like 6 to 8% a year over a long period of time. That's what they've done. Market goes up and down, but if you can get those market returns, it's good, but you got to invest.
I like to divvy up things depending on percentage. So immediately after my paycheck comes into my bank, which I use Ally, it just goes into the savings depending on how much I want. I tailor my lifestyle towards not having that money because I'm just used to it.
Okay, the kid's smart. I'll tell you why. If you actually have targets, in other words, you're putting percentage spans and you can watch it on a weekly basis or every 2 weeks, because you're probably getting paid every 2 weeks, that's real smart. Because the way you go offside and end up with massive credit card debt is that you don't stay within those guidelines. So she's got a pie chart and she's saving, for emergencies, classes, gift donations, and travel. That's very smart. The one thing I don't see here, which is incredibly important if you're 23 years old, is you gotta put $100 aside every week for the long term. In other words, you're investing in your retirement. Minimum $100 a week. So we'll see if she's got anything like that in here.
I graduated from Ithaca College.
Ouch, she starts with $16,000 in student loans, which reminds me, if you're gonna burden yourself with a loan that you gotta pay back at probably 5 or 6% interest, because that's sort of the going rate on student loans, which is a huge interest rate these days, when the 30-year bond is yielding less than 2%, that's very, very expensive. You wanna make sure you're investing it in in an education you can get paid back on. Like, go to college for something you know you can get a job in. I've said this countless times. There are 3 good categories to focus on: engineering, engineering, and engineering. Try one of those. And for a 4th choice, go with engineering.
I had a lot of part-time jobs throughout school. I'm really fortunate that I didn't have a lot of student loans. I had a lot of scholarships, and my family helped a lot through college.
Very smart to do part-time during school. That reduces the debt. Very smart. It lets you actually have some cash flow. I did that too. I actually was a waiter, and I worked at night, and I worked in the record store, whatever I could do in college to keep my loan down or even pay off some of it while I was there. I'm starting to think Elena's got her poop together, so to speak.
I think it's really important to get a jump on it if you can. I still want to budget for it and get them paid off in the next 5 years.
Okay, paying it off and having a plan is very smart, because I'll tell you, while you have that loan, you're paying interest. That's an expense that's brutal. So she's got a plan to pay it off in 5 years. Very good, I like that.
I feel like dating as a young person is pricey. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, it's a little helpful that I am a lady. So usually if I go on some first dates, I don't usually have to pay. I'm happy to, I honestly am. Like, sometimes I pay tip.
Smart. First date, you don't have to pay? Yeah, okay. But eventually you don't want to become in debt to that guy unless you think there's something there. So I've got the 3-date rule on that thing. You can go up to 3 dates and let them pay every time, or let the other significant pay. But once you're past 3, I mean, you know, the only reason you go out a 4th time is you know, you're trying to light the flame, and then you got to become a participant in the cost. You're going to kind of go 50-50. I don't think it's cool that no matter who you're dating, that you let them pay for everything on the 3-date rule. So you can let them invest in you for 3 dates, but 4th, you got to pony up. Just saying.
I also am on a bunch of email lists and newsletters that give you free events. How long have you lived here?
Almost 5 years.
Oh, okay, nice. Like, I'm actually friends with my neighbors. Like, I'll tell my friends, like, oh yeah, like I baked a cake with my neighbor, or, you know, I went over to their house, and they're like, you know who your neighbors are?
I'm starting to like this gal. I'll tell you why. She's thinking about all the things she can do that she doesn't have to spend money on. She's staying hip to what's happening in her local neighborhood. She's talking to neighbors. She's on social. She's seeing what events that are around her are free. Very smart. In New York, you have to do that. New York is so friggin' expensive. Of course, the city wants to suck every dime they can get out of you, but at the same time, people are hip too, and they're doing their own things.
So like with my hair, I honestly cut it myself, or like my mom does it. Like, and that's just because I have pretty simple hair. Like, I don't need anything super wacky.
She cuts her own hair, so do I. You gotta save, you gotta save. You know, I have a little less to cut, so it takes me less time. That is really smart. Beauty, you know, is everybody wants to look as good as they can. In some ways, it's important that you do that. But if you can minimize the cost, that's really smart. And hair is really expensive. She's young, she's 23, so she doesn't have to dye her hair. That's coming later, very expensive. Okay, this is the part I'm really interested in. What is the retirement plan? She has one, so let's hear what she's doing.
So I have the 5% and then my company matches it.
Okay, she has an IRA, the company matches it. You must take advantage of that. If you have a company that's giving you $1 for $1, you have to do that. That is like free money coming out of a helicopter to you, and you have to do it. That's one of the benefits of being employed, particularly if the employer wants to help you build your nest egg. That's really smart and very, very important.
If I get a pay increase, I definitely want to up that. For the company to put in money, like that's free money. Like I don't know why you wouldn't max that out if you have the financial means to. So that's really important to me.
She's got $2,000 in Robinhood, that's great. I prefer Beanstocks, that's the financial literacy platform that Mr. Wonderful's investing in. I'm really big on this whole thing. We teach everybody everything in high school, but we don't teach them about investing, and of course they end up in debt when they get out of college. Not Elena, she has been way ahead of this game and now has $2,000 put away. I like that a lot.
I do freelance photography on the side, mostly headshots and portraits.
Whoa, I like that. I'm a photographer too. I think that's really great. And also, one thing I was going to say about your life is if you're really interested in pursuing a career, whatever it is that you found that you're passionate about, that's good. But business is binary. You either make money or you lose it. In a career, you're always trying to help the company you're working with move forward. But it's great to have a passion in the arts, which is chaotic, but it really helps you be a balanced person. She's into photography. I'm looking at some of her shots. Pretty good.
I think it'd be nice to make over 100,000, and I definitely want to hit that by 30. I know it sounds kind of ambitious.
Very, very good to have a goal in terms of what you want to have as an income. $100,000 a year in Brooklyn is a good number. It means basically you're keeping about $75,000 or significantly more than she's got now. Let's say after tax she's only got $40,000 free cash flow. If she got to $100,000, she'd have $75,000. She could maybe even buy a condo at that point and put it towards something where she's building equity. Having that goal means on a regular interval you're asking your boss for a raise. You don't get one unless you ask, by the way. You never get one unless you ask. I've been doing this a long time. People ask me for a raise, it's because they feel they deserve it. She feels she deserves it. Very smart.
I think if I make the right career jumps and I stick with my side hustles, it's definitely doable. I would want to donate some of it. I'd want to use some of it like to travel or to buy more camera equipment. And then a lot of it I would just want to put to the side. All the small things that it's easy to be frugal with, it would be nice to have that little perk later. But I think in general, my budget will still be pretty similar, even if I get a pay raise.
Okay, here's what I think. she's still got a bunch of money on that student loan she's got to get rid of. That should be the primary focus. It's better to pay off the debt before you put a significant amount of money into investment, because investments can go up and down in value. As we all know, the stock market has volatility. But if you still have debt, that's forever. And that debt is for certain going to charge you interest. So in a way, when you pay down your student loan, you are investing in yourself. You're getting rid of it. You get that burden, that shackle off your back. What I see here is she could probably get rid of that debt in about 36 months if she just focused all of the energy she's got into little things towards that debt. And she'd save a fortune long term, because 6 or 7% interest, that's nasty. Now, it's not as bad as credit card debt at 21, but it's still a lot. You know what I'm going to give Elena on a 1 to 10? I was impressed. I was very skeptical at the beginning, but I'm going to give her an 8.2. And for me, that's a huge score. I'm not kidding. She's doing a lot right.
I didn't like the thought of putting money aside that I couldn't touch. I wanted to be able to invest everything and have it be tangible. But through the advice of my siblings and my CPA, I do contribute about $1,500 a month to my self-directed IRA, which...
First, right out of the gate, this guy is doing something very important, putting aside a portion of his income, $1,500 a month, into his IRA. Genius. You have to do that. Now, maybe you don't have $1,500, but you have to take at least 10% of whatever you're making and put it aside into an IRA. Is a fantastic idea, because you want it to start compounding at 6 to 8% a year. That's what the market's given people for 100 plus years. And that's what you're putting aside for your nest egg when you turn 65. So this is really important. I like this guy already. I don't even know who he is yet, but smart.
My name is Sahil Mehta. I'm 25 years old. I make around $515,000 a year, and I live in Berkeley, California.
So what we have to find out is, how is he making $515,000 a year? What is he doing for that? Whatever he's doing, I'd like some of that. So would you.
I work as an executive assistant for Herman Chan at Golden Gate Sotheby's, and my day-to-day really can be largely unpredictable. I make a commission on every deal that we close, and fortunately, the real estate market here in the San Francisco Bay Area has not.
Okay, now I know what he's doing. He's working for one of the most successful brokers in the world, selling really high-end real estate. And because he's doing all the logistics, that broker takes a portion of the commission he makes, generally 1, 2, or 3%, on a $20, $30, $40, $50 million house, and gives it to this guy. Now, there's not many jobs like that in the world. You have to be really, really good at executional skills. This kid is going places. That's a lot of money to make in commissions. Very impressive. I'm really impressed.
It has not slowed down. It has only increased year over year since I've started. And a lot of it has to do with, market timing.
Okay, here's some other news. He and his brother have almost $10 million invested in their own real estate. I mean, that's obviously they're probably renting it out, or they're taking speculative bets, but I bet you there's leverage involved. And I don't know yet, but they've borrowed money to do that. It's really hard to make $9 million and have that as free equity. So they're borrowing money, and therein lies the risk.
So I was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. My dad was a practicing physician, and my mom was a business owner. My family sort of lost a lot of what they worked so hard to earn in the market crash of 2000 and 2008. And so at an early age, I learned the importance of managing money and managing risk.
You hear that? Managing money and managing risk. He lived through the downside of the crash, and his parents lost a business, it sounds like. Very traumatic, very hard to work so hard and then lose it all. Now he has that fear and that understanding of how the markets can giveth and they can taketh away too. And so he's become more conservative in his thinking about taking risk. Everybody should think that way. Just because everything's working right now doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. You have to have a nest egg. You have to have some cash set aside for when the bad times hit, and they always do.
I don't pay any rent right now. I live in a building that I own, and I try to keep it that way.
Okay, let's look at the monthly budget here. I mean, the majority of what he's doing is savings. That's way more than half, which is incredible. Most people can't even get near that. They're lucky to get to 20%. This guy is really focused on de-risking his life, and that's just remarkable. Discretionary, $300, that's okay. Travel, $460. Food, $700. You know what? This guy's eating well. Probably eating healthy stuff. When you're spending that much a month on food, you're eating well, which is important to avoid getting stressed out. He's saving $10,000, and in addition to that, he's putting $1,500 into an IRA. I mean, the guy's almost at 70% investing in himself. Really important. Very impressive.
Elon Musk, like to many, is like a pretty big role model to me. I ended up buying a Tesla Model X. It was my dream car, and I just feel so fortunate to be able to buy it, but then also just use it.
Tesla Model X, probably one of the most expensive models Tesla will ever make. I have one too. I love it, but it ain't cheap. So this guy is really doing something interesting. He's trying to invest in the best of everything, which is something my mother taught me. It may sound crazy, but don't buy things you don't need. And when you do need something, get the best you can buy. It's the highest quality. It may last the longest. Same in clothing, same in cars. Very important. He's able to afford it.
At the end of the last year, I found out that there was a way that I could buy the car and write off the entire amount if it weighed more than a certain amount. And so I discovered that the Model X qualified. So there's definitely moments where I will splurge on, looking good and eating good because I have a membership at Equinox. Sometimes I don't make the best use out of it, and I know it looks that way, but I do try to go to the gym.
Okay, some new little nuggets there. Number one, he bought the car so he can capitalize or depreciate it and write it off. Very smart. That means you pay less tax. He's probably got some depreciation schedule. That means he takes a portion of the purchase price and applies that against his income and writes it off. Very smart. So he doesn't lease the car. Number two, membership to a gym. We just discovered it. Why? Very important to work out every day if you can, or at least make sure you do it a few times a week, and he is doing that. And he said he's eating well. Very smart. Very smart.
While attending my senior year at Berkeley High School, I discovered that there was an option to take concurrent enrollment for classes that transferred to UC Berkeley at a discounted rate or completely free. And so I aggressively took as many courses as I could to transfer. So graduating high school, I enrolled into Berkeley as a junior instead of a freshman.
Smart move. He found free courses. Sahil found that these by just looking. You always have to look for opportunities. You should be online looking for opportunities like this, but he took some of those classes for free that applied towards his college. And you know why that's smart? It reduces the amount of money you have to invest because you're getting, the time you're there is less, so you have less college debt. Shrewd kid. Ooh.
My brother and I own 5 properties now in close proximity to Berkeley campus. We bought half of our portfolio last year, more than half of our portfolio just in 1 year. Doing all this while working as an executive assistant, it does give me a little more enjoyment because of the control. I'm not told what to do or anything, and so part of that is definitely better.
Pretty cool. He partnered up with his brother to buy 5 properties. Basically what he's doing is playing off the student housing market because everything is near Berkeley. Kids are coming in and out all the time and looking for a place to live. He's probably renting out these houses to multiple students at the same time. But, working with your brother is interesting because they grew up together, they trust each other. If you're going to get into business with a family member, you've got to know, blood is more important than money sometimes, but sometimes that can also be a headache. It's not a true business relationship, it's a family business relationship, and they have their own challenges. But it sounds like these guys are doing very well right now.
Sometimes I could wipe out entirely what I made in a month, but generally I like to save more than half of what I make in a month. More if possible, but sometimes, expenses that come with property ownership, it sometimes can be very...
There's the key to success, saving half of what he makes a month. So few people can pull that off, but that's really why he's been so successful so far. Probably his brother too. Saving is everything. It gives you that cushion of security. Takes stress off you, and it's good to know you've got that pillar, that foundation for when you start your own family. And when you're making this kind of income, $500,000 a year, you need structure. You have to optimize for your taxes. You need professionals to help you give you that guidance. but he's basically putting corporate entities in place so he can write off expenses inside of them because he's running a business. He's got all these properties. That's why it works. And getting and understanding this level of sophistication at an early age is very powerful for later in your career. He is an entrepreneur. It's highly unlikely that he's going to stay forever working as an employee because he's going to keep building up this portfolio of homes and become basically a landlord. I'm just speculating when I say that, but he's good enough to pull that off. So far, I don't see any mistakes being made yet, at all.
With the combined effort of my siblings and I, we were so fortunate to stay true to our mission of helping our parents and providing to them like they did to us. And so we were able to have them retire entirely, and they are now living close to us. What's theirs was ours growing up, and so now what's mine is I feel like is theirs. The most important lesson I've learned about money is to be patient. The money that I make doesn't really change my why. It just proves that when you have your reason and a really grounded mission, the sky is the limit.
You know, many cultures take care of their parents in older age. That's what he's doing with his brother. That's very, very noble. But to be able to do that, you've got to start working at a young age. And that's exactly what's happened here. We should do more of that in America too, because it gives you goals early on in life. Everything Sahil has done here is pretty well executed. I can't find a mistake in what he's done. The only thing I would be concerned about is if he had too much leverage on his houses, but he's probably smart enough to have fixed those mortgages so he knows what the monthly nut is, because you can get fixed rate mortgages in sort of 3 to 4% right now. But this is a flawless portfolio, incredible executional skills, great family values, and focus on savings. I'm giving him 100%. I rarely do that. Look, impressive. This kid got it right. Congratulations. And Mr. Wonderful doesn't do that often. I don't give hundreds. Never happens. Congratulations to this guy. Hey, Mr. Wonderful here, aka Kevin O'Leary, and I'm about to watch a video and critique a couple living in Chicago on $178,000 a year. That's a fair amount of change. And just before we get started, don't forget to destroy the like button, because you're going to like it. Here we go.
The arts and ballet specifically sort of have a stigma of not being a lucrative profession. And that for me is a shame, because if you're a ballet dancer, you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because you love it and it's something you're passionate about. But it is a profession that a lot of people make a very, very good living in.
No, just 1 minute there. Dance is a really tough profession. First of all, you got to get in. Every guy and his dog wants to be a professional dancer. There's only so many troupes around the world that will employ you. And if you're just in the corps de ballet, that's the beginning entry level, you make basically nothing. But you've got to get into sort of being a principal dancer to start making $178,000, or at least sharing that salary. So these guys are in the 0.00001% of the population making a living on dance. I'm not saying dance isn't a great profession, but it's really hard to make a living in it, and it's for the young.
Last year, I took home about $77,000 from the Joffrey Ballet.
And I made $66,000 from the Joffrey Ballet.
What's interesting about this is my wife's on the board of a ballet company, so I've had a chance to go watch these rehearsals. They are grueling. I mean, it's brutal. Grown men weep at these things. It's not easy at all, so I have a lot of compassion for this. Unbelievable. But now we know, and of course they're romantically involved. Hey, what else are you going to do? You're dancing with them all day long. Of course you're going to meet somebody in the ballet. Here they go.
Last year, I made $15,000 in additional income.
And I made $20,000 in additional income.
Okay, now we're getting the truth here. Side hustles. One makes $15,000, the other makes $20,000. That's pretty good, right?
We bought this apartment 3 years ago.
In 2017 of May.
And it was originally listed at $349,000. Actually, we managed to get it for $338,000.
So they bought a condo together. You know what I don't like about the story right now? I didn't hear they got married. I heard they were dating. and yet they've bought this mega asset, undoubtedly have debt together, and there's no legal union. You know what I mean? I mean, I love romance. I'm a romantic. I love dance. Dance and romance are even, you know, it's a fairy tale. But what happens if this relationship doesn't work out? What happens if one wants to stay and the other doesn't? I smell trouble ahead, kiddies.
We put down $15K. We were kind of upset that it didn't come with a parking spot. But in the long run, we're so thankful because we don't have a car, and I don't think we'd ever have a car here in Chicago.
Okay, that's smart. You don't need a car when you live in downtown Chicago. You can get around on public transportation or shared rides, no question about it, even though pandemic has slowed that down a little bit. When it's over, we'll go back to that normalcy. Cars are a huge burden, insurance, maintenance, all that stuff, and they depreciate over time, the majority of them, and you have to pay for the parking spot. In this case, they didn't do it, so I guess they're saving about 20 grand right there. That's good.
Our big main renovations were the kitchen and then the 2 bathrooms.
Smart. Those are the 2 most important things to reinvest in when you buy a home or condominium. Everybody wants the latest kitchen. Everybody likes nice bathrooms. Everything else, not such a great investment. That was smart. Good to hear that. So it's starting to sound like they know what they're doing, although they're not married. Could cause problems, as I said earlier.
I don't really budget per se, but when I do spend my money, I make sure that it is somewhat essential. I don't go to the nail salon. I just cut my nails myself.
She said, I don't budget. That's a mistake. You have to know what your income is and how much you're spending. So they're making about $7,000 a month, okay? So you got to think about, you really don't want more than 1/3 of that towards paying for your mortgage. And they're paying $1,958 on their mortgage, so they're within that rule. That's pretty good. Food is costing them $2,800. If you're a dancer, you have to eat well. You got to watch your diet. You have to know what your proteins and carbs are. Sounds like food is even more expensive than their mortgage, so they're very serious about it. $1,000 a month for the pet? That's a lot. I'd lose the dog. Maybe a cat's cheaper. Whoa. Oh, now we have some facts. But they don't have a joint bank account yet. And they shouldn't until they tie the knot. And even after that, they should still have their own bank accounts. Why? So they can have their own credit ratings. They should have their own credit card in their own name, and they can have a joint credit card for those expenses that they assume they deserve to spend together on. It's good to hear that they're planning to tie the knot.
We love to go out to dinner, we love to go with friends, and also it's been really helpful in relationship building for us around Chicago. We've made some really good friends with owners and managers of certain restaurants.
Listen to this. $520 on groceries, got it. $600 at restaurants. $1,762 out of $7,000 on takeouts? What? That's crazy. Now I'm starting to understand what the problem is here. That's way too much if you're only making $7,000 a month. That's crazy. That's more than your mortgage. You got to stop doing that. You have to start thinking a little better. $28.85 on food is too much, and takeout is not the healthiest food.
My number one rule with my checking account, my spending money, is that I always have a cushion of $1,000 in there, no matter what.
Savings account, not good enough. Investment account is what we need here, because this is making nothing after inflation. So we've got to get them both into a plan where they start to put that into the stock market. And many people don't know how to buy stocks, but thank goodness all these apps are out there that help you do it, and you can get a large diversified portfolio that way. And so I think immediately they should put half of this to work in the market, and then each week a little bit more, because the market goes up and down, and you want to catch an average buy-in price. But over time, it's a good thing to start thinking about. But I love the fact they're thinking about the future.
We don't have a 401k. I don't like the idea of waiting to see that money when you're 65.
Especially since our retirement age is 35, 40.
No. The reason you want the 401k is to take advantage of the tax code. This lets you have gains tax-free. You do want that. You want every gift the government gives you when you're investing for your retirement. They will have other careers after they're 35. Maybe they make it to 37, maybe even to 40 years old. But the point is, after that, they will find something else. Many dancers do. They stay involved in the arts, they find jobs, whatever it is. But you've got to build that tax-free base for after you're 65. So a mistake there. That's not good financial planning.
My last very big splurge was an engagement ring for Geraldine. I proposed to her almost a year ago on September 26th. I did spend a lot of my money on her ring. I wanted her to have something really beautiful.
I hate the rings. It's such a waste of dough. I mean, you know, I get the emotional thing and, you know, how wonderful it is to give the ring, and a lot of women want the ring, a lot of guys want to give the ring. It is such a waste of dough. And it's so much better if you can just not do that and actually take the same money and invest it for yourself in the future. And later in life, when you can afford, you know, a friendship ring or whatever you want to call it, then do it. But right now, at the beginning of their career, when they're trying to pay off a mortgage and they're trying to save as much as they can, what do you need a ring for? I mean, come on. Or even get a fake ring and just understand what you've done and, you know, spend $300 on it. But to get a real diamond ring, kumbaya, kumbaya, come on. That's pure marketing. I mean, you know, pure marketing. I feel bad for him. He got sucked into buying that ring. She looks happy, so, you know, still, I just hate it.
Our dog, Kahlua, is a little old lady. She was diagnosed with lymphoma. I think we spent almost like $8,000 to $9,000 on her chemo treatments.
Oh. Look, it's tough to say this, but how much is a new dog? A lot less than $9,000. I get the emotional connection, but your dog has cancer, it's going to die. You want to treat it the right way. You want to make it as painless as possible. I don't know if the dog is suffering, but $9,000 on chemo treatments and cancer treatments and support for a dog. Look, it's a tough thing to say, but that's why you're coming to me. Time for a new dog.
One of my goals is to start a production company eventually. So I would really like to create a lot more content around the arts that doesn't just relate to other artists and dancers. I want it to relate to people as a whole.
And I would love to pursue a career in interior design after I'm done dancing.
Love it. They're planning for the future. Very, very smart. You know, Dylan, he can produce. That would be fantastic. There's always demand for more content. Even dance is getting more digital. These are virtual performances as troupes try and keep their customers engaged and make money any way they can. And frankly, interior design, if you have the eye, is always going to be around forever. People are always trying to upgrade where they live, even more so that they're conscious aware of pandemics now. Now, how would I rate this couple from 0 to 10, 10 being the best? In the beginning, when I was listening to their story, I was thinking around 4 to 5. But the more I heard about how they're planning their lives, the better I felt. So I'm going to give them a 7.5. I'd like to see them get to a 9. They're going to have to do what I said. Take some of those savings and invest them and set up a 401k and make sure they get their own financial identities with credit cards. All that stuff can be done quite easily, and they can get their rating up from 7.5 to, let's say, 9.5, which would be fantastic. I'm very optimistic about these two.